Well, hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Alumni Speaker Series. We appreciate you being with us today, and we have really enjoyed getting to talk to a lot of different alums over the past several months and them sharing their stories. And today we are fortunate to have with us Miss Emily Myers-Duke. Emily is a 2002 graduate of Concord. She's originally from the Charleston area, and Emily is the founder and CEO of Pretty Creative, which is a public relations firm that specializes in building brand awareness for businesses and nonprofits by showcasing their authenticity. Emily has over 18 years of experience in communications and marketing. She has generated high-profile media coverage for nonprofits, private and public brands, and she is known for developing thoughtful partnerships with clients, media partners, and community influencers. Before she founded Pretty Creative, Emily spent 9 years as a division manager for a large advertising and public relations agency, where she served as the chief PR strategist and spokesperson for a Fortune 500 brand. She has also been featured as a keynote speaker, led marketing and PR campaigns for state agencies, and served as a university instructor. And in addition to her degree she got from Concord in public relations and advertising, she also has a master's in integrated marketing communications from West Virginia University. So Emily, thank you very much for being with us today. And she's going to be talking to us about building your personal brand. And so with that, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Well, I am thrilled to be joining you, and I look forward to hearing some feedback from the folks that get to watch this. I love talking about this topic because I think that it's something that we gloss over and maybe we don't think it's important or even kind of pick on or make fun of. But in reality, we do each have a personal brand, whether we realize it or not. And so the power of knowing that is that we can take control of it and help to build out the way that we want to be seen. And that starts from the inside, and knowing how you want to be seen and knowing yourself and making sure that you are presenting yourself the most authentic way possible. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let me pull up my presentation here so I can share it with everybody. And take a second here to get it actually started. It's going to give me presenter view, so I got to use slideshow. There we go. All right. So you should be seeing this properly now, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So building your personal brand. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. This is my son, Will. He is now 4 years old, and he was the catalyst for me wanting to start consulting 3 years ago. I had been working for a large PR ad agency, as you mentioned, Sarah, for almost 10 years, and I loved my job, but it involved a lot of travel and living in airports and boardrooms. And after my son was born, I just wanted to have a little bit of a different lifestyle. So he, coming into this world, helped me change my lifestyle, my personal brand a little bit, and move into consulting, leaving the agency world, which I loved. And my mouse is very finicky. Mac, and it has like, just barely touch it.
That's right.
So, and then this is my husband, Matt. Matt was also my biggest support when I decided I wanted to start Pretty Creative and leave the traditional workforce. And he has just been our biggest support, helping move my business along and encouraging me all the times that I wanted to quit. And I think anyone that's watching this that has ever started their own business knows that feeling of getting to the end of the day and being like, what in the world was I thinking? So it's really important to have somebody that's standing behind you and saying, you've come so far, you can't quit now. So I'm just super thrilled to have his support. And then this is our dog, Mason, and he is the chief marketing officer for Pretty Creative. He is in charge of morale and security, and he just brings us a lot of joy and happiness throughout the day. He likes to involve himself in client meetings and everything that we're doing and make sure that everyone is happy and gets a tail wag before they ever leave a virtual meeting that we may be on. So we live in Poca, which is in Putnam County, West Virginia. That's where I'm from. I'm a Polka Dot born and raised. Went to Concord. I moved back to Poca, bought my grandparents' home. I had the blessing to be able to do that, and we are building our family and our life here in the greater Charleston area. That's a little bit about me and my business, Pretty Creative. I do media relations, crisis management, community and influencer outreach. I do industry contracting with agencies that still need support and freelance help on public relations projects, crisis management, media relations. I do integrated marketing plan design and execution for businesses that need help actually designing and executing their plan. So kind of serving as their communications director. And then I do workshops and speaking events like this, working with a lot of different industry organizations, chambers of commerce, and things like that. So what we're going to talk about today, defining your brand, determining your brand, 5 tips for building it, and then we're going to go through a brand truth exercise. Normally when I do the exercise at an in-person event, we'll kind of take some time to stop and let everybody work through it for a minute or two in each step. So today, when we get to that section, I will talk about it and give some examples and tips, and then people who are watching this will be able to stop the video, work through some ideas, and then keep on going with each step. So we can do it that way to save a little bit of time. So what is a brand? A lot of people think that it is just a logo, and it's not. It is a culmination of experiences and feelings that really create a perception that you as an individual have about whatever that brand may be. And it's really, for the brand, it is the outward expression of not only the goods and services that you offer, but also your ethics and core values. And that applies to not only a business brand, but also a person. So when thinking about brands, I want to talk a little bit about celebrity personal brands. And the first one I'll talk about is Shakira. So we first found out about Shakira through her song Hips Don't Lie many years ago, and she became so popular as a result of that song. Well, then as time went on, we got to know her a little bit more personally through her work on The Voice as a mentor and a coach, and then a little bit more personally through her work with the Barefoot Foundation and supporting mothers across the world. And then she kind of went back to her roots last year with the Super Bowl performance, where we got to see her be reminded that her real roots were in dancing and what an amazing talent she has. So to me, she's a great example of a personal brand that has evolved throughout the years, that has been able to change and grow and stay true to her roots. Another one, my favorite, the Queen, Dolly Parton. Dolly first became apparent to the world when she appeared with Porter Wagner on his show, and then she decided that she was ready to move on to some other things. So she struck out on her own as a songwriter and a performer. And she's always been kind of known for her appearance, obviously. But now we know Dolly almost more, even past her music career and her appearance as a philanthropist, through all of the work that she does through the Dollywood Foundation, the Dream More Foundation, the Imagination Library, all of the money that she's donated to various organizations. That's kind of what's going to be her legacy, even beyond her music career. So another great example of somebody that has evolved and grown their personal brand while really, really staying true to her roots, because we all know what Dolly's roots are. She makes sure that that's ingrained in everything that she does. And then the last one I want to talk about is Oprah. So she first came to us, most of us, as a syndicated talk show host, but she had a long career as a journalist in media before she ever landed the Oprah show. And over the years, she evolved her show from a standard talk show to a platform for artists and authors and thought leaders, and then grew that into a magazine where she focused on health and wellness, both physical and mental, and then grew that into her own network. And she works as an author and has a school that she supports and makes sure that students get access to education. So again, a person who came to us in one fashion and over the years has grown her brand to include a lot of different facets, but stayed true to those roots and ethics and values. And I think you can look at any of these individuals and know what they stand for just based on, your experience, your interaction, your perception of them, what you read in the media. So they're great examples of how to build those personal brands. So to me, a personal brand is really a way to determine and showcase your values and guide who you are through consistent practice. And it is really also how others see you at work and in your personal life. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And I don't want anyone to get too caught up in the how people see you part, because that is not the most important piece of that. The most important piece of this is how you see yourself and how you want to display yourself to the world. So that's really what we're going to focus on. So personal branding really supports your desire as a person to grow, and it can help you to differentiate yourself, to elevate your professionalism, and to showcase your accomplishments. And a lot of us tend to be kind of quiet leaders. We don't necessarily want to shout from the rooftops like, hey, look what I did, or I did a great job at this project at work, but no one has noticed, or no one said anything, or maybe somebody else got the credit. So one of the things that personal branding can do is help us to learn how to stand up for ourselves a little bit and make sure that we are showing the world about some of our accomplishments and what is important to us. Otherwise, they're simply just personal victories. Sometimes a personal victory is a great thing, but sometimes you need to be able to share a little bit more with the world. So I tend to look at this as taking somebody like Michael Scott. If you're a fan of The Office, he thinks he's the world's best boss, and he's maybe not. So if Michael Scott think that he's the greatest boss, then you can take some of your personal victories and share them a little bit more with the world and stand up for yourself. So authenticity is really the most important part of this whole piece when you're thinking about your own personal brand. It is truly the quality of being genuine and real and honest. It is your true nature or beliefs. And that is the only way that you can build your personal brand is by being authentic. Because if you try to create one that is based on another persona, it's going to fall flat. It's going to collapse eventually because it doesn't work. You're not building a personal brand based on a persona. You're building your brand based on yourself and who you truly are. And that's the only way that you're going to achieve any sort of happiness, really, or success when it comes to this type of thing. So I want to talk a little bit about authenticity at work. And this is a silly picture of me with a silly story that goes along with it. But before I started at the agency in 2008, I had worked for about 6 or 7 years in government marketing and PR, which was a really traditional career clothing, if you will. So working in a pretty traditional office environment and wearing suits and dark colors and all of the traditional things that you're kind of told that you need to wear when you go to work. So when I started working at the agency, I started noticing that people were dressing more creatively and colorfully, and we had a dress for your day policy. So you could either, if you're meeting clients, you might need to be in a suit. If you're going to be at your desk all day, you might have on jeans and a sweater. If we were doing inventory of in our storage unit of all of the stuff we used for events, we were in clothes we didn't care if they got dirty. So I started to see these people, dressing more authentically to their selves. And I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, I'm really tired of wearing these dark suits. It's not really me. So I started obviously I like to wear bright colors. And I started doing that, like wearing my more colorful clothes and that sort of thing. And it became something that my coworkers and my clients noticed, that my outside was finally matching my inside, because I'm naturally a friendly person and, like to talk to strangers and, I'm pretty happy most of the time. Right. So they started calling me the flamingo. So I was at the zoo and I stopped by the flamingo exhibit. I had to take a photo for them of me in my flamingo clothes visiting my flamingo friends. And it was just a joke for all of us, because that was a moment where truly like I said, my insides were matching my outside. And your personal brand is not necessarily related to or tied to your clothing or your appearance. But for me, it was just an outward expression of how I was really feeling on the inside coming through on the outside in my work attire and my regular everyday clothes. So looking at authenticity at work and how you can kind of set yourself apart, that's through your own experience and your own values. And you get a chance to, create your own goals and benchmark your own success instead of trying to set that up against what somebody else has set up for you, which is so common in the workforce. Somebody else decides all of your goals for you. But when you're working through your own personal branding process, you get to decide what those are. And you have to know what your unique characteristics are and how they affect others, like both the positive ones and the negative ones. So for me, I know that one of my negative ones is that I am a procrastinator. So I have to make sure that when I am working with a team and in a group, that I am not procrastinating, so that my, tendency to kind of put things off until the last minute doesn't affect people and their deadlines down the road and that sort of thing. So you have to know all of those little things about yourself as you're working through this process. So when you're determining your personal brand, there's some things you need to do. One is to ask your trusted circle for 360 feedback. Sometimes this is painful, but you have to ask for the honest truth. Like what do people really see you doing? Get some negative and some positive. Ask for them to share it in a kind way, but ask the trusted people that are going to give you feedback in the nicest way possible so that you can actually use it constructively. If you're in the workforce now and you're getting annual reviews, then check those for consistent comments, because you're going to see the same things pop up over and over and over, both positive and negative. So that can help you to determine a way that people are seeing you and ways that you can enhance what you're doing well and maybe improve what needs improvement. You have to be honest with yourself. This is the part where you have to get introspective and really know how you feel inside, how you want people to see you, what are your values, what are your core ethics that you want to stand up for. And then you have to think about whether or not other people's perception of you aligns with yours, because sometimes you may think that people see you one way when in reality they don't. So this is when it's important to make sure you have that trusted circle to go over all of this with and say, this is really how I feel inside. This is what I want to make sure people are seeing from me. And is this what you're seeing for me? And if not, then let them give you a little bit more feedback to help you decide the direction that you want to go. So some ways that we can use this. One is to seek relevant opportunities in your career, in your industry. So looking for chances to strengthen your desired identity. I think that this is important no matter what career that you're in, is looking for networking opportunities. So industry organizations that are important to whatever industry you may work in, attending events when we have a chance to do those, or even the online events that we're starting to see a lot of industry groups do, like chambers of commerce and that sort of thing. Looking for volunteer leadership within organizations or nonprofits that are important to you and in line with your values. Making sure that you are applying for positions that are aligned with your goals, so that when you are going to look for jobs, that you're looking for things that are going to make you feel comfortable, make you feel like you're being able to show up as your best self every day and do your best job because they're really in alignment with who you are. And have some honest conversations with your mentor and your manager, which is not always the same person. And, let them know these are some opportunities I'm looking for. Do you know of any volunteer opportunities in our industry or in our company that, could be good for me? And let them know that this is something you're working on and you would like a little bit of support and encouragement. And you never know what kind of help you may get along the way. The next thing is to speak up. So when you're in a meeting, we find ourselves often in a situation where we've been in there in a long time and we're ready to go. And there's somebody that's asking questions over and over, right? And sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, why do they have so many questions? Well, the fact is, if you're asking a question that's useful to make a point or to bring clarity to a discussion, then those are important questions to ask. And honestly, there are no stupid questions. It is important to stand up and ask those questions if you need clarity. You may find that there are other people that will come up to you after a meeting is over and say, hey, I'm really glad you asked that. I didn't know the answers to that either. Or I didn't understand that either, but I was afraid to ask. So looking for ways that you can provide useful input and value to a discussion is a great way to kind of speak up and get a little bit of recognition for your knowledge and also your ability and willingness to not think you know everything, because that's no fun. We're not all Google. We can't know everything. So not being afraid to admit that you need to learn more, I think is really important. And also make sure that you are taking credit for the work that you are doing well and that you're giving credit to those who are working with you. So if you're working on a team, if you're managing people, they're doing a great job, make sure you recognize them both individually and publicly and let them know that you appreciate them, you support what they're doing, because you never know how much that little bit of support and encouragement can really help somebody even in their own personal branding process. So the next thing is to network internally. Think about who you might like to know within your company and make sure that you are maintaining your relationships with your own colleagues while, looking beyond your immediate team for connections. Check in with your colleagues from former roles that you may have had or departments that you may have worked in before you moved into your current position, and participate in the mandatory fun. So those of us who have been in the workforce for a long time know that there's often mandatory fun that is not always as fun as we want it to be. And I don't think we see those as much right now when we're not necessarily all being able to work in the same space together. But, I remember in my agency life, there were, days, dress up days and silly things that we did, contests and that sort of thing. And participating in those and showing a little bit of more of your personal side and your human side can make a big difference in how people see you. Because if you continually say, I don't have time for that, that's not important, that's silly, then unfortunately that can kind of pigeonhole you into a box, and that's not what you want. So look for ways that you can participate in those things in a way that is authentic to you and gives you a chance to show a little bit more of that human side to your coworkers and managers, colleagues, that sort of thing. I actually have someone in my life I know that hated participating in these things because they thought they were so silly and, really took away from what they were trying to complete within their workday, which was admirable. But when we were discussing this at one point in time, I said, just try it, just one day, just do one of the things. And when they did, everyone said, wow, I didn't know that you honestly were any fun. And this is really one of the most fun people that I know. And so just taking that one step to do this activity kind of opened up a whole new world for this person, because it gave insight into their humanity and helped them others to see that truly they were a people person, and opened opportunities into management later on and that sort of thing. So you just never know when that sort of thing might be beneficial to you and your career. So the next thing you can do to help build up your personal brand is to lift others up. So the way I look at it is always that a rising tide lifts all boats. So if you are able to bring others along with you, support each other, and offer that trusted 360 feedback, then you're going to be helping others along while you're also helping yourself. Make sure that you are advising people about opportunities that you find out that might be right for them. If you have a seat at the table in a situation where you have someone that is maybe, a rising star or one of those quiet leaders that we were talking about, and the people that are kind of afraid to speak up for themselves, and you see an opportunity for them to come to the table with you, shine that light and give them an opportunity to have a seat there. And as a manager, if you're working in a role where you're, in a management position, the ultimate goal is to train someone to take your job, right? So, because if you're hoping to move on into another upper level position, then you want to make sure that you're handing over your work to someone that is trusted. So the goal of a great manager, I always think, is to train others to take your job, give them the support that they need to learn how to do what you're doing while they're also seeing success in their own job. And I think that's just a great way to lift others up. So this is when we get into the part where we talk about creating your own brand truth, which is really your personal mission statement. And the first thing I always ask people to do when we are starting this is to create their core values. And this is because these are the things that you're going to fall back on at the end of the day when you get confronted with difficult decisions or, confusion, or you're feeling frustrated in your career. Then being able to go back and say, okay, does the opportunity that I have right now align with these core values? Is the job that I'm in right now, does it align with my values? The opportunity I've been given to join a board of directors or take a different position or, volunteer in a different role, do all these things align with my values? And I don't think that that's something we necessarily think of as individuals. Most brands, if you walk into an office, will have a poster up that says, these are our values, this is our mission statement, that sort of thing. But it's not something that we necessarily create as ourselves. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is look at those core values and what they might be for us. So I encourage people to start with 5 or less, because I think when you get into more than that, it gets to be too many, it's too overwhelming. So I would start with 5. And I like to give a list of people to kind of pull from. These don't have to be the ones that you may choose, but I like to start here because at least it gives you a thought process to get you going on what your core values might be. So this is where we start the process. And then we get into the next phase of building your brand truth, which is, what do you do and why do you do it? Really think about, within your career, what are you doing and why? Why is it important to you? Why is it valuable to you? And that's something, especially somebody that's mid-career like me, we kind of lose sight of that. Along the way, we just keep going on the same path in the same direction. All of a sudden you're like, why am I doing this? So I think this is a really important first step, is to think about what you do and why. And then step number 2 is to think about who you do it for. Really, at the end of the day, who are you helping? Who are your customers? Who are the people that you want to walk away from an experience with you saying, wow, that was a great experience. I really love working with that person. So who are you doing this for? The third step is to think about how you want others to feel. Like I just mentioned, when they walk away from working with you, do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel relieved because you helped them solve a problem that they may have? Do you want them to feel comfortable coming to you and talking with you about concerns or fears that they may have? It depends on your career, your line of work, how you want others to feel when they walk away from working with you. So that's the next step to consider. And then the fourth one is to think about, what are your goals? So what are you trying to achieve each day within your career? This doesn't have to be long-term overall life goals. This doesn't have to be a huge aspiration. Just think about 1 or 2 small goals that you can work toward every day. So that's step number 4, is to think about what are your goals. And then step number 5 is to think about how are you going to achieve those. So that's when you take a couple of little steps. Just think of 1 or 2 little steps that you can do every day to help achieve those goals. And those are the 5 steps to creating that brand truth. So I hope everybody will take some time to stop along the way and think those things through and write them out. There is a document that I had provided to you, Sarah. So I don't know if that's something that will be able to go along with this presentation when you send it out, but gives you a chance to print it out and write out your thoughts as you're going and kind of take notes on the things that I was talking about. And I will share mine. So essentially with my own business, I am the brand for Pretty Creative. So my own brand truth, my own mission statement is that I deliver integrated PR marketing programs to businesses desiring high-level strategic guidance and execution. I love matching brands with the best storytellers to create robust results. And my customers are served through one-on-one consulting, group presentations, and social media. And I want them to feel excited, proud of their work, joyful, and appreciated when they are done working with me at the end of the day. And then my core values are colorful, obviously, so we talked about that a little bit earlier, helpful, humorous, because I like to infuse humor into the things that I do. I work a lot of crisis management situations, and you have to find a little bit of light at the end of the day when you're in a difficult situation. So I like to bring that to the table when it's appropriate, and innovative and respected. So those are mine. So that's how I lead folks through the process of creating their brand truth, and how can they use it when they're done putting this together. So think about this as being able to take that statement once you fold it together and create an elevator pitch from it. I kind of hate the practice and discussion of the elevator pitch because it's something that's so often used, but the fact of the matter is it's useful and sometimes you need it. So it's a good thing to have in your back pocket, and you can use your brand truth to pull, 30-second statement from that and practice it so that you're ready to go when you need it. Maintain consistency and authenticity in who you are. That's the only way really to kind of achieve success with this, is to make sure that you're sticking to your own truth and your own self and your own values, and work on your communication. So stand up for yourself in a positive way. If you think about, maybe a situation at work where you've completed a project and you did well, you have the metrics to back it up, but nobody, ever says anything to you, it's okay for you to say, hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity to work on this project. These are the metrics that show, how well it went when we completed it. Like, just really want to thank you for giving me this chance. I enjoyed working on it. Sometimes you have to advocate for yourself in that way. So it's okay to find ways to stand up for yourself in a positive way. Consider the written communications that you're sending out, your emails, your chats at work, text messages, even the resume and cover letter. If you are in the process of sending out job resumes for new jobs, then make sure that those are professional and polished. And then also look at your LinkedIn profile and see if there's a way that maybe you could incorporate your brand truth into that, or just make sure that it is also polished and matches up with who you truly are, because that is something that folks are going to look at if they are considering you for a significant volunteer position or a significant work position. So some ways that you can use it. And then One of the last things I want to talk about before we close this out is authentic rebranding, because this is something that doesn't get touched on enough, I think, when you're talking about career education and career development, because you go through a career for maybe 40 years, we'll say, and who you are when you start out your career and who you are midway through and when you reach retirement age, it's not the same person, right? You go through a lot of changes in your life during that time, and you go through a lot of changes in your career, and you may find that you get to a certain point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm more interested in a different line of work or different industry, and I'm ready to make a change. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to make that leap especially if you have been kind of entrenched in a position for a long time. So I want to make a point that it's okay to make those changes. Sometimes I feel like we need permission to do so. I know that when I was thinking about starting my own business, I needed somebody to tell me that was okay because I never thought that I was something I was going to do. I needed a little bit of help and encouragement to kind of push me off the ledge, if you will. So, you can change this brand truth that you just wrote out for yourself, your mission statement. You can and you should change it as you go throughout different seasons of your life, because things will change, your priorities will change. You may find, like I did, that I didn't want to work 40, 60, 80 hours a week anymore. I wanted to have some more time at home with my son while he was small. And I didn't expect that when I was young and starting out my career. I ended up taking a little bit of time off here and there to help take care of a relative before my grandmother passed away. That wasn't something that I had expected, but I'm really glad that I did that and had that extra time with her. So those are the kinds of things that may come along throughout your life. Just examples from my own personal life that you may also find, or other things will happen to you. And it's okay to say, I'm different. Something has changed. I'm ready to do something else. And don't let people put you in a box. Make sure that you use those core values that are your own, and be authentic to yourself and say, thank you for recognizing that, I've had success in this aspect of my career, but I'm ready to move on and do something else, and, overcome those old tired beliefs with something new. And just don't let those others bring you down, because you can make a change and rebrand yourself as many times as you want as your career goes on, as long as you are being true and authentic to yourself and your values. So that is that. Your recap is that authenticity is key. Seek the relevant opportunities that will help you to build and develop that personal brand. Speak up, stand up for yourself, network internally within your company, within your industry, lift others up as you go along, because that's going to support not only you, but them. And know and stand in your brand truth. Be yourself, be authentic, and know who you are. That's it. So if you have any questions for me on this part, I would love to hear them. And if not, that's okay too.
Well, thank you very much, Emily. We appreciate you sharing that with us. And we will, just for everybody watching, I will make sure, she did send me that worksheet, and we will make sure that it is posted on the speaker series page of the website. So you will have access to that. If you want to write it down, I would definitely encourage everybody to take a few minutes and work on that. And then also, if you do have questions and want to talk to Emily directly, if you want to send that request to alumni@concord.edu, and then I can pass it along to Emily and get her in touch with you to answer your questions. So since we are doing this format a little different this time, we got to handle the Q&A part a little differently. But we've had, like I said, we've had some great alums, and everybody's been more than willing to communicate with students or even other alums watching this if they have questions after that. So with that being said, can you think, Emily, is there one particular experience maybe during your time at Concord that was especially valuable to you in terms of preparing for this profession that you're in?
Yes, absolutely. So I was the co-director of the student PR workshop for 3.5 years. And that was invaluable in preparing me to work in PR marketing, because I got the opportunity to manage some of the other students that were in the workshop, and learning how to give positive feedback and negative feedback while still as a student to other students was really important, because I've gone on to manage multiple people at different times in my career. So really getting that basis of learning how to work with different types of people and how to give that kind of both positive and negative feedback has been super useful. And the other thing about the PR workshop was that we planned a lot of events from top to bottom. So I've ended up, using that. When you work in PR marketing, even if you're not an event planner, you still find yourself planning a lot of events for various reasons, some small, some large. And having that experience of doing that top to bottom over and over and over in the PR workshop has been super useful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any suggestions or maybe tips for, if it's a current student or a recent grad who is considering, either going into the PR marketing field, or maybe they have that entrepreneurial spirit and want to start their own business? Do you have any tips or suggestions for them in either of those areas?
So for starting your own business, there are right now a million resources available to help and support with that. Every state and municipality has various access to small business development centers, small business administration, and you can get so much information for, starting a business, whether you need capital to start it, you need actual funding, or you just need support getting like an LLC filed, or your paperwork, learning how to do your taxes, learning how to hire people if that's something you have to do right away, learning how to get a loan and find a location if that's something that you need. So I would always start with those. And there are also just tons of great resources, honestly, on Instagram. I have found a lot of people in the business community that are teaching great courses, and they're giving out wonderful content on Instagram for free. But there are also, folks you can buy course development or training programs from on how to build a website and how to start a podcast, and all of these different resources and tools that you might need. So it is scary. It is really hard to start your own business. 3 years in, I can tell you, it's still hard. Every day I'm still learning something new. But the resources are there. And the biggest piece for that, to me, is to have a support system, have somebody behind you that is willing to, stand up and encourage you, and also find yourself a network of other entrepreneurs to speak with, because there is definitely a difference between talking about work with those of us who are used to working in the traditional workforce, like I was before I started this, and what happens when you start to work for yourself. It's just different. And so you need some support from folks that have been there and are in the trenches with you and learning and working through that process, because it's really essential to have that community and support. So that's the thing I would say for entrepreneurs. For people that are interested in PR marketing specifically, I think this is a great time, because there's so many remote jobs right now. So it really doesn't matter where you're located. You can work with clients and projects all over the country or all over the world. And as long as you have access to the internet and, a stable connection and a phone, you have the ability to work on so many different kinds of projects. So I think that is an amazing tool that wasn't available when I graduated almost 20 years ago. So I think that's really cool that it's available to students, especially folks who don't want to move away, knowing that those remote jobs exist and they can make a career from that is an amazing opportunity. So as far as, trends and stuff within the industry, learning content management, content writing for social, for websites, videography is a big part of PR marketing world right now. I'm surprised how many requests I get from people who need videos for things. So learning how to do some of those things yourself, but also learning how to outsource to folks when you need support is another key factor there. So there's just a lot of opportunity right now in the industry, and it's growing and changing every day.
Well, and that kind of touches a little bit on my next question. It does seem like the field of PR marketing has changed a lot over the past several years, and especially with social media. So can you talk for a minute maybe about kind of how that has changed, or kind of what you see for the future in terms of that aspect of the field?
Yeah, my true love in PR is media relations and crisis management, which sounds weird because it's not that I want something bad to happen. I just know that's an area of skill that I have, being able to support and help when something does happen, that's something that I can do. So those two worlds tend to still be pretty traditional when it comes to PR, but there are so many other requests and opportunities that, people come along and say, like I said, like, I need a video for this. Can you shoot a video? I'd like to start a podcast. Can you help support starting a podcast? And no, I don't know how to start a podcast, but I can help you, get it out into the world once you're ready to do some engagement with influencers and the media, about what your content is. So I think that learning how to do a lot of different things within the PR marketing realm is a key skill that's needed for anybody that works in this industry, is the willingness to learn and to keep learning, because it's going to keep growing and changing, right? At the time that you and I graduated, like, blogging wasn't a thing, and now it's a whole career field.
Right.
I mean, social media wasn't a thing.
No.
So the willingness to learn and grow and change with the process and with the field is essential, because if you don't have, the willingness to learn, then you're not going to be able to continue to work, because you have to keep updating your skills. So I think that that's probably the biggest takeaway for me right now, is that you just have to have that willingness to grow and learn, and also know what your skill sets are, like, know what you're really good at, and stick with that and say, hey, this is what I'm really good at. So this is what, I really would like to do, but it doesn't mean I'm not willing to learn something new, or I'm, not willing to direct you to somebody that has a skill set that's better aligned with what you need, and help you to outsource some of that work. So I'd say that's probably the willingness to learn is the biggest one right now.
Okay. Well, and one final question, is there anything that you've dealt with in your career so far that has really stuck out in your memory? That, I know you're a great storyteller, so any kind of final thought that you want to leave people with?
Oh my gosh. So I spent almost 10 years working for an ad agency, and as a communications manager. My client was McDonald's. So that is the best teacher that I possibly could have had when it comes to PR, because we worked on crisis, we worked on proactive and reactive community outreach, media relations, social media management, events, all of these different things. And it was on the job training every day. It was challenging. It was fun. And I mean, we had lots of really funny, crazy experiences. But when it comes to something that really stuck out with me about that job, and that I always take away from that with me, is that when you work with a really wonderful group of people, that you can create magic. I mean, you can move mountains when you're working with the right group of people. And that was what I found when I was in that position. I just was very fortunate to have a great group of clients and a great group of colleagues that I got to work with every day. And when you think about, in our region, the amount of like man-made and natural disasters that we've faced over the last 10 years with the derecho and the water crisis and the 1,000-year flood, and the amount of times that those people showed up every single time saying, how can I help? What can I do to support? And, came together to literally move mountains to help people. That's a lasting impact on me, because it showed great leadership from a variety of different people, and just the difference that is made in an organization when you have great people leading the way and helping to support and mentor and guide the people that are working with them. So I think that when you're, working through your career and you're looking for a place that's really going to make you feel comfortable and give you a chance to lead and give you a chance to be part of a great team, that's the ultimate goal and success for me, is to be able to be part of a team like that and know that, I'm working in a field in a way that can help a lot of other people do good and feel good at the end of the day. So.
Well, that sounds great. And I think you've proven you've done a great job so far in your career. And I know that there is probably even better things to come as Pretty Creative continues to develop and you leave that pink thumbprint of yours on on everybody that you come into contact with. So thank you for being with us today, Emily. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And like I said before, if you want to get in touch with Emily, email alumni@concord.edu, and we can definitely get you in touch with her. And so with that, we will wrap up this session of the Alumni Speaker Series, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.